J-Tech Studios in Atlanta, Georgia. It's America's favorite game show podcast. Tell them what they've won. And now, here are your hosts, Tom Bastek and Mike Jacobs.
Hello and welcome in. It's America's favorite game show podcast. Tell them what they've won. It's the Game Show Guys. We are your hosts. I'm Tom Bastek.
And I am Mike Jacobs. Hello, good morning, Tom. Welcome to you. How doth thou?
Welcome to me. The way you said that, it was like, well, welcome to Tom. As in, like,
you're right. Yes, we have arrived at Tom.
We've arrived at Tom. There we go. All right. Well, good morning, Mike. Yes, another beautiful week, and very excited as we start to get more and more information in about the Southern Fried Gaming Expo.
Yes, I hear we have a press sheet now. We're going to be making commercials.
Yes.
Singular.
Yeah. Well, you'll hear a commercial that'll run for the Gaming Expo between segments. But it's essentially August 20th to the 22nd. It's at the Renaissance Waverly Hotel and Convention Center at the Cobb Galleria in Atlanta, Georgia. Come down and hang out, and we're going to be there.
We are indeed. We will be, I say broadcasting live. That's not accurate. We will not be live streaming, but we are going to record an episode live and in person.
Yes, we won't technically be broadcasting. We won't technically be live, so that's a total and complete lie.
It will be live to tape, like Conan or something like that.
Correct. Well, Conan's now.
Well, yeah, okay,
done.
Look, I don't want to talk about it.
Oh, are you very upset in your household over there?
No, it's fine. You know what? I'm glad he has his podcast, and that's going very well for him. I think that's a good avenue for him to continue.
Wow. Okay. Fantastic. Anyway, not only will we be there, not only will be recording our podcast, we're also going to be hosting a live game show. By the way, multiple game shows going on during the weekend, one of which we will be hosting. And if you would like to be a contestant on it, we're going to have an opportunity for you to win your chance to be a contestant on the game show and win prizes live at the Southern Fried Gaming Expo.
Indeed, we will be offering passes and, like Tom says, a guaranteed spot on our show. Our contest will begin next week, I believe, is the time frame there.
That is absolutely correct.
Excellent. So keep an eye out on all our social platforms for more information regarding that, and best of luck to all of you who enter.
Yeah. And if you don't win, just come on out, because obviously we're going to have at least, I don't know how many guests we're going to have over the course of the hour that we're doing the game show, but there'll be plenty of opportunities to come from the audience up and be a contestant on the show as well. Plus, if you're into more than game shows, that's what this is all about. This is an entire gaming expo. So tabletop board games, esports tournaments, live music. They've got retro video games. And when I say they've got retro video games, normally they have like over 150 pinball machines and over 400 video games there. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's going to be tons of fun. And like you say, we've been sort of pitching this as there's a lot of stuff for game show folks, which is true. But game show folks like all sorts of games, right? And so they're covering the entire gamut of gaming fandom.
Yeah, and they've got panels, they've got special guests, guest speakers. They have a flea market portion where they have people selling all kinds of old school stuff.
Guarantee I'll be dropping some money there.
Yeah, they have an 80s prom night that they're going to do.
Oh, nice.
Plus 2 nights of live wrestling. The AWE is going to be there. It's going to be pretty amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. AWE is great.
Yep. If you want more information, it's gameatl.com. Hotels are available, and they have a special package there you can click on. I think you could say at the Renaissance Waverly, which is a very fancy, cool, upscale hotel in the Cobb area, and it's like $100 a night or $130 a night, something like that. But check it out. It's gameatl.com.
Fantastico.
All right, Mike, any other business that we need to clean up before we move on to news?
This is such a minor thing, but it bothered me so much that I have to go back and say this. When we talked about Small Fortune a while back,
right?
One thing that I forgot to say about that show, when we did Family Feud, we had a conversation about how awful the buzzer sound is.
Right.
I would argue that Small Fortune, Tiny Fortune, whatever it was called, I don't even care to remember, their failure sound is worse.
Wow.
It's
okay.
Yeah. Again, it's such a small thing. I don't want to belabor the point, but it's awful. Not a fan.
Well, I'm glad you got to throw that in
I
there.
just had to get it off my chest. It's been hanging over my head for weeks now.
All right. Well, we're going to try to stump a chump and also get the news. Let's go to Christian.
Let's do it.
Light up your cigarette, crack open a beer, put the kiddos to bed. From chaos around the world to carnage in your burial front yard, it's time for the news.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Mike. This is the news brought to you by BuzzerBlog.com. Well, we had the Emmys a few days ago, and the late Alex Trebek was honored with one more Daytime Emmy Award on Friday night, marking the Jeopardy vet's third consecutive win for Outstanding Game Show Host, his 8th overall. Now, he, of course, wasn't there to accept the award, but his children, Matt and Emily, were there to accept the award on his behalf. And really emotional moment for the show, for the Emmys broadcast. All told, Alex Trebek won 32 daytime Emmys across his career, including 3, which I didn't know this. He got 3 Emmys for his work on Classic Concentration. Had no idea
Nice.
that he had won so many. Of course, Jeopardy has won dozens of Emmys overall, and of course, Jeopardy this year also won the Emmy for outstanding game show. So big night for Jeopardy, big night for Alex. God rest his soul.
Yeah, and I mean, well deserved on all accounts there. I think there's probably a argument to be said, like, who else was going to win it this year, given that he's passed. But I feel like that would cheapen the victory a little bit, and I don't feel like that is really a factor that he absolutely deserves.
Yeah, and also
every accolade given to him.
I think that not only did he deserve, well, I'm not sure that he deserved it because he died, but I think that, you look back on the last 2 months of that show and the way that he was, one of the things that was commented on throughout the media as he was winding down his battle with cancer was how well he did holding it together and pulling himself together and doing the show in the face of everything that he was up against.
Yeah,
so,
very true.
Mean, just for sheer determination. And then the show, how many other shows would be able to navigate such a tumultuous change? And I think altogether, specific criticism of the guest hosts aside, I think Jeopardy itself has done a fantastic job keeping the show running. It's been fascinating to watch all these people get a turn at hosting, and the quality of the show has not gone down at all. And the quality of the show has not gone down at all, not even with Dr. Oz. I just think they've been doing a fantastic job.
One of my biggest things was, how do you handle that when a legacy host passes? And I think Jeopardy has now set the bar as for what we do when legacy hosts pass from this point on. If Pat Sajak got, let's pray it doesn't happen, but was to suddenly, pass away, I feel like Wheel of Fortune would handle this the exact same way. I think that Jeopardy's gone ahead and set something that said, hey, listen, yeah, we know that the guy that you know and love for the last X amount of years is not available anymore. Here's a way that we're going to make it okay as we get through this together and get through the grieving process and still have our favorite game show. And then we'll pick somebody, and we're not going to be as upset as if we had picked somebody day 2 right after so-and-so had passed.
Absolutely. There are not many shows on TV that have earned that type of trust from its audience. And so I think they did a great job navigating the idea that this is the word beloved is used very frequently, especially over the last year or so when it comes to Jeopardy. But I mean, that's the best word for it, right? It is a beloved institution.
Well, and I in addition to, not many shows have earned that from their audience, but like not many shows deserve that sort of gravitas for a like you say, Wheel of Fortune, Tom, like Bob Barker. Beyond that, like, I don't know that anyone really would have that much of an impact that it like requires this delicate handling.
Yeah, who knows? Going forward long enough, you never know if someone from Holy Moly after 74 seasons passes away. And
God,
then
wouldn't
what do you
that
do?
be amazing? Like, it's like a debate of who do you replace Rob Riggle with
Yeah, that's a rough one.
in
That's
like
really
70 years. Yeah, that's
My first choice is Mayim Bialik.
there you go.
Nice. Yes, exactly. The right answer is always my Bialik. There it is.
This is completely out of nowhere. I mean, it's somewhat related, but I remember one of the first things related to the Jeopardy Alex Trebek situation that made me laugh after his passing back in November was The Onion. They posted an article, I want to say maybe like 2 weeks later, and the headline was, "Producers regret making the answer for every question on Memorial episode of Jeopardy, who is Alex Trebek?" and they photoshopped the scoreboard so that everybody had like $4 million.
So good.
That's
that's
great.
really so good.
That's great.
All right, Christian, what else do you have for us?
Well, it is that time of year again, friends and loved ones. It's casting season. We have a bunch of game shows that are looking for contestants. If you're into it, listen, it is the most fun you can have. Being on a game show being on all the game shows that I've been on have been like the most incredible, rewarding, fun, exciting experiences of my life. And these are some of the shows that are casting. So if you want to be on Supermarket Sweep, on on Game Show Network's Chain Reaction, or
right.
The Price is Right, all those shows and more are casting. And you can head over to buzzerblog.com right now, get all the information, tell them Christian and the guys to tell them what they want sent you.
Wait. The Price is Right is casting?
The Price is Right is casting. I think, and this is just my theory, I don't have any official info on this, but I think because of the gear switch they've had to undergo as a result of the pandemic, they don't really have an audience to pull people from right now. And I think
see.
that in time for them to make new episodes for the upcoming season, I don't know that they would have enough time to put that together properly. Not to mention undo all the renovation that took place on the set to accommodate the no audience. So that's what I think. I think that's what's going on.
Gotcha. That makes a little more sense, yeah.
Well, I have to apply for as many of them as I possibly can, and the reason being is that I have promised myself that I would apply for at least 3 different game shows in the year 2021.
That's a great like New Year's resolution or whatever.
I love it.
It's a post-pandemic resolution for me.
There you go. Love it.
You got the personality, man. You could do it.
I think any of us could. Christian, obviously you have, but I think Mike and I both have enough like chutzpah that we would be right in the zone.
I would love to do it, and a buddy of mine who is a huge Legends of the Hidden Temple fan, he sent me the casting about the new version of that.
Dude, is he going to do it?
He really wants to, but he's also like, he does Iron Man and stuff. Like he's
so it's good for him, yeah.
Right? And like I replied back and I said, I think the same joke I made on air, which was that my knees hurt just reading the description. And of course he got all mad at me. And, we got to do it, man. But it's like, sorry, I'm almost 40. I can't. I don't have it in me.
Jeopardy and Legends of the Hidden Temple are going to be the only game shows both sponsored by Aleve.
Exactly right. Oh, that's great. Okay. Christian, how about this week in game show history?
Yeah, this week in game show history, we are going back to July 2nd, 1984. Now, this is a show I grew up watching in reruns, and there was also a new version for a little while, but this was, for 6 years, one of NBC's highest rated shows. And this is July 2nd, 1984, the premiere of Scrabble. Scrabble, hosted by Chuck Woolery. Now, Scrabble, of course, had been a famous board game for 50, 60 years at this point. But the game show Scrabble had almost nothing to do with the board game itself. It was a really clever word game with incredible writing, really exciting show. You know, you had 2 contestants facing against each other to answer these like crossword type clues. They would draw tiles from the desk between them to uncover letters to hopefully place in this word, giving them a better chance of guessing the word. Now, my favorite part of this show is the writing. Now, the writers of Scrabble never won an Emmy or anything like that over the 6 years that they did this show. But I thought the writing of these crossword clues was just some of the most clever and fun writing you would see on a game show in the 80s. And I've actually, if you guys don't mind, I've prepared a couple of sample clues that maybe we can try and play this and you can guess a couple of words. How does that sound?
I would love to do that. We for those more interested in learning more on Scrabble, we have an episode from way back when.
Yes.
And yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. So I'm more than happy to play.
And Mike and I talked about this on that episode. I don't like the board game Scrabble very much, but I love the game show Scrabble. So I'm super excited and ready to play.
And I'm sure we've mentioned this at some point, but Scrabble, the TV show, was one of the very few game shows to get a home version based on the game show that was based on a board game. So there is a TV Scrabble. There's a board game based on the actual game show. That's actually a really lot of fun.
Cool.
But since we don't have that, I'll have to give you a couple words. So if you guys are ready, I don't know if you're going to write this down or you're going to type it out. However you want to do it is fine.
Yeah, I just got a little notepad on my computer here. I'm going to type it out.
I'm ready to. Go ahead.
And that like weird white noise tone that plays in the background is in my head right now. When they like give the clues.
Oh yeah, the background sound. Oh, that's another thing about Scrabble.
There's so much good sound in that.
It's the
show.
music, the
Yes.
sound effects. Yeah, we talked about that. Yeah,
not
absolutely.
only the quality, but just so many good quality sounds. Okay.
Great writing, great sound effects. Like this is like one of the best game shows of all time.
It really is. Yet it hardly ever comes up on those lists. It's just such a solid, exciting, interesting, challenging game.
All right, enough talk and let's play.
All right, let's do it. All right. So if you want to prepare yourselves, the first word has 7 letters.
Okay.
I should give the rules the way they do on the show.
Do it.
Let's play Scrabble. We're going to play Scrabble till somebody gets 3 words correctly. That player's going to go on to the Scrabble Sprint for a chance at today's jackpot, which is worth 5,000 imaginary dollars. Let's take a look at the board as we set up for game number 1. The first word has 7 letters. You guys ready?
7 letters.
Okay, 7 letters. The clue is you can count on them. And I'm going to pick completely at random. Mike, you go first. Now, this is what we're going to do. I don't have any tiles, and we don't have any visual element to this. So you guys are just going to go back and forth guessing letters. And as soon as one of you knows it, just let me know.
I know it.
Yeah, I know it too.
Do you know it?
I do.
Okay,
Go ahead, Mike.
what is it?
Fingers.
It is fingers, yes.
Yeah.
By the way, Mike, I just want to go on the record and say I also knew it was fingers, and this is 1,000 times better than the last time we played a game.
Absolutely true. We're getting it right off the bat.
All right, I'm ready for the next one. Come on, Christian.
Okay, word number 2 of 3. Now we're building off the letter E in fingers. There are 9 letters in this word. E is the 8th letter. Everyone have that down?
Hang on. Stand by. I'm writing it down.
E is the 8th.
E is the 8th letter in this 9-letter word. That's right.
I'm ready.
Okay, perfect. All right, 9 letters in this word. The clue is, after 40 days, Noah was up to his knees in it. After 40 days, Noah was up to his knees in it. And I started with Mike last time, so I'll start with Tom this time. Just go ahead and give me a letter that you think or hope might be in it.
I'm going to pick S.
There is no S. There is no
Great.
S, and I'll pass it over
Great.
to Mike.
After
After 40 days, Noah was up to his knees in it.
R.
There is an R, and I'll put that... Actually, there are 2 R's. So the first and last letters of the word. So there's an R in the beginning and an R at the very end.
Gotcha. Now, would that happen in Scrabble, or would you only get one of the
No, because you'd be
Rs?
drawing tiles individually.
Right.
So
Right.
you'd get 1 R, yeah, and it would place it wherever it was to be placed.
Here we go. Blue, 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 blue,
Yeah.
blue, blue, blue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just keep guessing until I get a stopper.
Yes.
O.
Well, I mean, keep guessing letters, rather.
Yeah. O.
Oh. No, there's no... No, there's no O. Tom.
Okay.
N as in Nancy.
N. There is an N in the 4th position in the word. After 40 days, Noah was up to his knees in it.
I'm going to guess another letter is, how about an A?
Yeah, there are 2 A's. There is one in the 2nd position, and one in the 6th position. So this word is coming into view very slowly.
Oof.
After 40 days, Noah was up to his knees in it.
I'll guess I.
There is an I, 3rd position.
Mm-hmm.
I know it.
We're getting down to it. Tom, do you know it yet?
I don't know it yet. Look, he's up to his knees in it. It's
Mike, do you know it?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, he does. All right, Mike, go ahead.
Is it rainwater?
Rainwater, yeah.
Yeah, rainwater. Nice. Good job. I did not know that it was water. Ugh, blah.
Okay, so we are 2-0. So we'll play the last one here. This is a quick one. 5-letter word. We're building off the A in rainwater. So that's going to be the 2nd letter in this word, which is 5 letters long.
All right, ready. Yeah.
All right, here we go. 5 letters. The clue is some guys get them loaded and try to score. Some guys get them loaded and try to score.
All right, Mike, you go first on this one.
S.
There are 2 S's in the 3rd and 5th position in the word. Somehow I think you're going to get it. Some guys get them loaded and try to score.
I know it.
Oh, I thought Mike did.
Mike, do you know it?
Sorry, you said the S's were in the 3rd position and
the last position. Yeah.
Yep.
I still know it.
Man. Some guys get them loaded and try to score.
Right.
I should know it, but Tom, go for it.
It's at bases.
It is bases.
Sports.
Yeah, I knew Mike had no shot at this. That's why I was like, I know this. Mike has no shot at this.
Last second rally for the lead, but 2-1. Mike took Scrabble. Good game, everyone.
Oh, Christian, thank you so much for playing with us. I really appreciate it. That's
My
so
pleasure.
much fun.
And that's the kind of wonderful writing you can expect from Scrabble.
I'll tell you what I really do expect is that I hope there's an opportunity that we can bring back the 24-hour game show fundraiser that you guys run and be a part of it in some way, and we can play on some of these shows.
That'd be great.
I would love that. We're thinking about how to do that soon. We don't have any solid plans yet, but we definitely miss it. Last year was weird without it, and this year is going to be weird without it too. So we are looking to do it as soon as possible.
All right. Well, speaking of games, we have one for you, of course. We do it each and every week. This is Stump or Chump. And Mike, do you have a question for us this week?
I do. Our good pal Ryan has sent one in. He actually sent this in a while ago, but we've been resting on it, mainly because I forgot about it. But it's cool. So here's the deal.
Thank you for being so upfront and honest. We have a very transparent podcast here.
I'm really bad at lying. Clearly. So anyways, all right, we got a 2-parter here, but we are going into the realm of Canadian game shows.
All right.
I'm gonna be loose with the 2 parts and what we'll accept and whatnot, but basically here's what's gonna happen. Not here's what's gonna happen. We know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna ask you a question. Here's the deal. Okay, so Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Very, very popular show. In addition to many other international versions of the show, there is also a Canadian edition of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. It is believed that CTV, the program or the network that produced it, did so specifically to counter programming on the rival CBC network. So, because of that, I want the 2-parter is, number 1, how many episodes of the Canadian edition of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire were made? And in order to counter what other programming? I will give you the hint that this was in late summer.
Okay. Interesting. All right. So I happen to remember that the Canadian version of Millionaire did not last very long at all. I remember that it was very very one and done. As a matter of fact, I think there may have even been as few as 2 episodes of this show.
Is that your answer?
For that part, yeah, I'm going to say 2 episodes.
Yeah, 2 episodes is correct.
Okay. So now the counter programming. So if we're talking about shows that were popular around the time that Millionaire was like massively popular. So we're talking, I think this was probably year 2000. And if I remember correctly, the most popular show, one of the most popular shows that just at least took America by storm, I'm sure it did the same for Canada, was Survivor. And Survivor to me seems like I remember watching the first season and being fascinated by it, and I remember it wrapping up in late summer. So I will say that Millionaire was programmed to counter or to take the audience away from Survivor.
I love that answer, and I love the rationale for it.
Oh, good. They give it to me.
The rationale is absolutely correct. However, in the late summer of 2000, the Summer Olympic Games were happening, being aired on CBC, and so CTV created Millionaire to counter the Summer Olympics.
Okay,
Wow.
cool. You know what? I learned something today. Thank you.
There
Ryan.
you go. Yeah, no, fantastic.
Well, I mean, in all fairness, though, he did get half of it right, and we're talking about Canadian game shows, too.
He got the half right that was actually about the game show, which was that there were only 2 episodes.
Right.
And honestly, I thought about giving that in the question because I didn't think there would be a way of him knowing that there were only 2 episodes made. So far as I can tell, I'm still the chump.
Yeah, we didn't stump him here. I mean, my feeling is like it's like saying, "Hey, Christian, so Wheel of Fortune came out and named the 7 other networks that and the shows that were on them that were going up against it at the time when it failed miserably."
Well, and I would also like to point out that he again knew that it was the summer of 2000 and that the choice was made to counter something that was going to be very popular, which I guess
hate to
was
be
in the question.
I hate to be a Christian apologist here, but he
No,
got
that's
it.
all right. I feel I learned something new today. So we can put an asterisk next to this entry in the record.
It's not a stump. I'm not okay with it. No, it's not a stump. I don't feel like it's good enough.
It's not even close in my mind. So
Yeah, agreed. All right, fine. The show that we're featuring this week, Christian, is called What Would You Do? It was on Nickelodeon. It was right after the whole wonderful amazingness that was Double Dare. What's your thoughts on this guy?
Yeah, I mean, What Would You Do was such a cool show. And, looking back on it, there wasn't much of a game to it. They played a lot of little fun things. Mark Summers would kind of roam the audience and just find people to have fun with, which, if you needed proof that all you need for a good show is an audience and Mark Summers, there it is. I mean, you know what's funny? I think about his performance on What Would You Do? And I wonder how he would have done as a host on Let's Make a Deal. If you think about the set and you think about the looseness of the format, I think he would have done an incredible job. This is a guy that has huge respect for the history of game shows, for the history of broadcasting. The guy started as an usher at CBS back in the day, developed the Magic Act, worked his way into becoming the ultimate kids television personality. Really fun show. Looking back on it, you realize it is a masterclass in audience participation.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, it feels almost as much of like a amusement park attraction as much as it does a real show. Like it's something to do in the amusement park.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just really, really entertaining. And again, the fact that one guy was at the helm of this whole thing. One of the things, because I've always been fascinated with public speaking. I'm a natural public speaker. I love it. I love speaking in front of people. And watching What Would You Do and Mark Summers hosting this show, I learned a tactic. I learned a skill. And if you ever notice at the beginning of a lot of episodes, he'll have a question and he'll say, "Show of hands, how many of you have spaghetti for dinner?" And everybody will raise their hands, or some people will raise their hands. And that is such a good way to instantly get your audience listening to you. You're starting what you're saying with a prompt, something you have to respond to. And I just noticed that gets his audience hooked on every word he's saying from that point on, because he's asking something of them immediately. And that's a thing that, like, when I was going through public speaking classes in college and even at like the campus radio station and beyond, it's been such a useful tactic to me. I've learned watching What Would You Do?
Yeah, it's a great icebreaker. I feel like he definitely he does it better than a lot of folks do. And the crazy thing is that he's older than all those kids and he still relates to them. I mean, there's a great way to do that without being creepy, and he has got it down to a science.
Absolutely.
All right, Christian, how about a plug for BuzzerBlog?
Of course, BuzzerBlog.com, the #1 game show website in the world. Whether you're looking for information, new series, returning series, casting information for shows in America and around the world, come to the place where diehard fans, industry insiders, and even the occasional casual can have a spirited discussion about the history and love of the game show genre. BuzzerBlog.com is the place to go.
He used the word spirited. I'm just so impressed.
I like that thinking. I feel like we've come up with a new term for ourselves in that we're spirited casuals. I like that.
We may have to use that going forward because we're certainly not the experts that that he is and the guys at BuzzerBlog are. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like a brand of pants.
Oh, there you go. a brand of like 80s mom jeans.
Yeah. Something kind of stretchy.
I would rather wear spirited casuals than my husky jeans at any day of the week.
Same here.
Thank you, Christian. We'll see you again next week.
My pleasure. Have a good week, guys.
Once again, if you'd like to submit a question for Stump or Chump, please do so via email, which you can catch us on the website at tellthemwhatthey'vewon.com, or send it through social, and we'll put it up in front of Christian.
Yes, indeed. Tom, are you ready to talk about another Nickelodeon classic?
You know, Mike, sometimes classic means it's a classic, like it's worth watching over and over and over again, and sometimes it's classic just because it's old.
I think this one might fall into that latter category.
Well, we're going to talk about the gameplay of What Would You Do?
We'll be right back after this. You've been listening to America's favorite game show podcast, Tell Them What They've Won.
Attention gamers of all ages, here's your chance to play over 250 arcade and pinball machines in Georgia's largest arcade for one weekend only. It's game on for the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, August 20th to the 22nd at the Renaissance Waverly Hotel and Convention Center and the Cobb Galleria. Come celebrate gaming and play all weekend long in our free play arcade. But we're not just all about the arcade games, there's so much more. Check out tabletop board games, esports tournaments, live music, retro video games, vintage computers, guest speakers, a flea market, an 80s prom, and 2 nights of live wrestling. It's a whole weekend of family-friendly fun, and it's waiting for you August 20th to the 22nd at the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. Visit GameATL.com today. That's GameATL.com today. Be there.
What would you do?
And there it is, the theme song from What Would You Do? That's this week's featured show on America's favorite game show podcast, Tell Them What They've Won. Mike, you love that song, don't you?
Well, love is a strong word, but I would say it's like in my top 5, maybe top 3 most remembered theme songs from my childhood. It's amazing to me, like, how much I remembered this show. And we'll talk about it in the history that, like, it was around for a long time outside of when it was actually just made. So I think that was probably part of it. But yeah, that is a theme song that will forever be in my head.
All right. Well, it's gameplay time for What Would You Do? Not a ton of gameplay here. A lot of pies, not a lot of gameplay.
So a lot of pie. Here's the thing. I don't want to say there's not a lot of gameplay because there are games happening,
sure,
but there's not like a cohesive format, right? It's almost more of a variety show with game elements. What you kind of want to think here is a combination of Let's Make a Deal and The Gong Show but aimed at kids, right? And as a matter of fact, there was an episode I saw on YouTube where Mark Summers made a reference that was like, wow, it's like, let's make a deal in here. But that's the idea, right? He's introducing these sort of bits and then going into the audience to get a contestant to play along. They are participating in some kind of a challenge or a game or a stunt or a wacky task or just something like that, right? There's not a consistent, like, round one this happens, round two this happens. It's like,
Sure.
Let's make a deal, and that they pull them out, and it's just like you get this random thing thrown at you. There's several different, like, recurring games that you would see, and it's usually something that would maybe pit parents against kids, or, you know, a couple kids against each other. One is like so okay, again, a lot of pies here. All of this stuff is pie based. One is
A lot of pies.
musical pies instead of musical chairs, where they're all sitting in chairs and they pass a pie back and forth while music plays, and then whoever has the pie when music stopped has to hit themselves in the face with it. A lot of stuff that is like basically what felt like failed Double Dare games, right? Like, a lot of, you have to do this wacky task or this messy thing in 30 seconds or less, or whatever. First team to do so wins. A lot of stuff like that. Or maybe one of them was there's 3 doors, and the girl had to pick from one of the 3 doors, and whatever was behind that door she had to wear on her head for the rest of the episode, or go outside of the studio and convince someone in Universal Studios to wear it instead.
Interesting.
Yeah, so again, just these, like, ridiculous tasks. But here's the thing. You're not really winning anything. Like, they're fun games, I suppose, in a lot of instances, especially the ones that are sort of Double Dare,
Ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
But most of the time, the prize is getting to hit someone else with a pie. Every now and then there's like a hat or a t-shirt, or I read on Reddit that apparently there are people who know people that won money. I never saw that, but apparently it's a thing at certain times.
Okay.
But most of the time it's just avoiding getting hit with a pie. But that's not even really true, because some of the times the prize is getting hit with a pie. So there's not even any cohesiveness as to what you win or don't win. It's really just, let's do something ridiculous and let's hit people with pies. That's what it all boils down to.
There was so many different pie incarnations of, like, it's the pie pod, it's the pie slide, it's
Yes, and
pie-diculous.
The show is building up to those sort of contraptions at the end, which is there was the pie coaster, which is like a little miniature roller coaster that at the end slams through a giant pie. The pie wash, which is basically like a simulated car wash with all pie ingredients. But the pie pod, I thought, was legit really funny to watch. It's basically like, it's like an execution chair that you get strapped into, and then they put a little plastic poncho over you, and you get safety goggles, and then there's these 4 hydraulic arms surrounding you, each holding pies, and they just fire off and smack you in the face with pies. But it's like pretty forceful, and it's hilarious when the pie just like smacks them and sticks there, as opposed to, like, you know, careening off. And I don't know, it's a lot of fun to watch people get in the pie pod.
I don't know, I never thought pie in the face was ever a funny bit ever, like going back to like the 1940s. Like, I just never understood pie in the face being a funny bit.
Well,
and so it doesn't really do anything for me now.
I don't disagree with that. I think the pie pod is funny just because of how ridiculous it is. But then once you get to the pie coaster is like impressive, I guess, that they made it. And then the pie wash is creative, but it's so over the top that it doesn't, like, the pie pod to me is the good balance between pushing the pie joke over the edge, but without making it too ridiculous. But
I think that with the fact that we've spent this much time talking about pies is a problem, but okay.
Well, and there is a clarification to make that these pies are really pies in name only. Like, it's a tinfoil pie pan, probably a very light crust, and then just a crap load of whipped cream, and that's really all it is. There's not like a full pie in there, you know?
By the way, you ever get whipped cream in your shirt or on your hair? Or, I mean, it stinks, dude.
Well, and it's sticky, and these people have to walk around a hot amusement park the rest of the day. It can't be pleasant. And that's the thing. Yeah. The things that these people are doing, they are doing for nothing. There are no prizes. There was a kid on there who got the, like, sort of logo eyeball from the show shaved into the back of his hair for nothing. He did not win anything. He just didn't get hit with a pie. It's so bizarre. But with all this pie talk, I do want to, we should briefly discuss the comedian Soupy Sales, because, I mean, really, without him, this show would not have its main pie premise. The idea of getting hit with a pie obviously goes way back to, like, vaudevillian days, but Soupy Sales was a comedian back in the, I think he began probably in the 40s, but his show was at the peak in the, like, I want to say mid to late 50s.
Okay.
He ran a kids show called Lunch with Soupy Sales that eventually just became the Soupy Sales Show. And he was the one who really popularized the idea of getting hit with a pie. Like, all of the references that people of my generation would have seen in the 80s and 90s regarding getting hit with specifically, like, banana cream pies or things like that all came from Soupy Sales. He is the one that took it from just getting hit with a pie to, like, multiple pies or pies coming from the back of the head, or, you know, pie ingredients falling on a person. Like, I don't want to say turned it into an art form, because I feel like it's just getting hit with pies, but he is really the comedian who is, you know, sort of, associated with pie throwing as a comedic bit.
So we have him to blame for the show,
or thank, depending on, you know, how you want to look at it. But yeah, I wanted to bring him up because I feel like he is instrumental in the development of the show. Also, fun little side quirk, which we may or may not have talked about in the Double Dare episode. Soupy Sales was actually originally up for the job of host of Double Dare, but they said he was too old and went with Mark Summers instead.
Yeah, and then Mark Summers became, like, the poster boy for Nick, which is great.
Right.
So.
Yep.
All right, so that's it.
Well, there's one last thing that we left off, which is the Wall O stuff. Occasionally during the show, you could win a token to the Wall of Stuff, which I suppose was the quote-unquote prize for doing whatever the task was and not getting hit with the pie.
Okay.
Though that does not guarantee you're not getting hit with a pie, because the Wall of Stuff is a wall with, I think there's like maybe 20 or so doors on it. And you put your token in and you open up a door, and whatever's behind the door is what you get. Apparently this is where someone won $50. There may have been a watch at some point, according to Reddit as well. Most of the time it's a hat or a t-shirt, or, you know, you get hit with a pie.
Or you get hit with a pie. Imagine that.
Yep. Go figure. So yeah, you know, again, not huge prizes. There's not, even if you are getting $50, it's $50. So it's not like there's a lot of stuff on the line here.
Sure.
I also read that in the entire run of the show that the door number 17 on the Wall of Stuff was never picked. I didn't confirm that. I just read that in the Wikipedia. Basically every wiki article for this show seems to have been written by the same person, or is just copy pasted from each other, because they all just have the same basic information. But yeah, apparently 17 was never picked, which is interesting because I consider 17 my lucky number, and were I on the show, I would have absolutely picked 17.
No, but you were on the other show. Picture this.
Get the picture. I wasn't on it. I was in the audience. Yes.
Right.
So I'm going to put out a call real quick. I feel like this is as good a time as any. I was in the audience of the show Get the Picture, And when I was in line at Nickelodeon Studios, I met another young man around my age who my assumption is lived in Orlando and would go to Nickelodeon Studios on the regular. I remember talking to him in line about how he saw lots of shows there. And since meeting him, I saw him in the audience of a lot of Nickelodeon shows over the years, including What Would You Do? And he was actually even picked as a contestant in an episode of What Would You Do? I did not find that specific episode. I believe he can be seen in some of the YouTube episodes in the audience, but just in the most astronomical long chance ever, maybe we'll get Christian looped in on this. I would love to get in touch with that kid, find out A, what his life story is, but B, get an interview on what it was like to be in the audience and on What Would You Do, but to be in the audience of so many different shows, and to be like a sort of, there's no way you could call him even a minor celebrity, but I mean,
I would say more of a super fan than anything.
yes, well, okay, but a recognizable super fan.
Yeah. Well, recognizable to you anyway.
Yes,
I mean, I don't know
yes.
if anybody else has noticed this or not, but if you are this person, or if you happen to know who this person is, or you've done the research to find out, please let us know. Mike would love to meet him, and we both would like to interview the guy for sure.
Yeah, so we're talking the like 89 to 91 range, basically. And while I'm sure there were lots of kids in Orlando who went to Nickelodeon Studios all the time in that era, I feel like being picked as a contestant on What Would You Do really narrows down the playing field. So
Do you know what the kid looked like? Can you describe him?
I'm not good at describing kids. As I remember, he had blonde hair in that sort of like 90s bowl cut-ish kind of look. Not quite
Nice.
Beatles bowl cut, but just like the sort of laying down flat.
Sure.
If he was, I remember he was sort of chubby, but not as much as I was back in those days. So maybe
Okay.
just had like chubby cheeks. I've just described 90% of the children in the audience of Nickelodeon game shows.
If this is you, please let us know.
Right? Yeah. I mean, again, the longest of shots. But I think about this kid on, probably a yearly basis and just be like, what is his deal?
Well, all right. Well, we'll see what's out there.
Yeah. Well, anyways, there you go. That's What Would You Do? Again, there are games, but to call it a game show,
It's a little, yeah.
more so than Love Connection, less so than Survivor.
Oh, there we go. All right. Let's do a quick break, and we come back. We'll talk history of the game, which I'm interested to hear where this one came from, because I've been taking notes as we're going, because I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to rate this. And some of the things that I do appreciate about this, and we'll talk more in the ratings, are going to be really focused on through the history for me, I think.
Fair enough.
And they're going to be that's going to help base my rating. But we'll see. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll do history, okay?
Sounds great. You've been listening to America's favorite podcast about game shows. Tell them what they've won.
Attention gamers of all ages, here's your chance to play over 250 arcade and pinball machines in Georgia's largest arcade for one weekend only. It's game on for the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, August 20th to the 22nd at the Renaissance Waverly Hotel and Convention Center and the Cobb Galleria. Come celebrate gaming and play all weekend long in our free play arcade. But we're not just all about the arcade games, there's so much more. Check out tabletop board games, esports tournaments, live music, retro video games, vintage computers, guest speakers, a flea market, an 80s prom, and 2 nights of live wrestling. It's a whole weekend of family-friendly fun, and it's waiting for you August 20th to the 22nd at the Southern Fried Gaming Expo. Visit GameATL.com today. That's GameATL.com today. Be there. And welcome back. It's segment 3 of episode number 44. This week's episode is the featured show is What Would You Do? It's a Nickelodeon classic, according to the incredible Michael Jacobs.
Well, I mean, we'll get into that in a minute. I think that it's not incorrect to use the term classic, not just because it's old. But let's start at the beginning here. This show was created by a gentleman by the name of Woody Frazier. He was a creator at Nickelodeon previously. He did a show called Wild and Crazy Kids, which you may or may not remember. I remember that specifically as the show that would make me change from Nickelodeon, which was a rare find back in those days for me.
Wow.
Wild and Crazy Kids was basically like a field day at school, but made into a game show. They would just team up kids and then put them on monkey bars and race around and stuff like that.
I see.
It wasn't that interesting to me, but it was very successful. So Woody Frazier was tapped to make a follow-up show. Despite the fact that it was inspired by the success of Wild and Crazy Kids, it is basically a spiritual successor to Double Dare because, as we saw earlier, a lot of these games are Double Dare based. Your host is Mark Summers, and for the first season, which began, by the way, August 31st, 1991, Robin Morella, she comes back. You remember her as Robin from Double Dare. They are both coming back and reprising their roles with Mark Summers as host and Robin as sort of co-host / stage manager, helping to make sure the kids are well taken care of in their games and that the pies are doled out accordingly.
Or in this case, just getting a pie in the face.
Yes. They filmed in Nickelodeon Studios, of course, as we mentioned earlier, but some of the Kids on the Street segments, they actually filmed in Hollywood Studios as well, which I guess makes sense. You widen your market, you get more usable footage for those segments. And we didn't really talk about those segments much in the gameplay section because there's not really a much of gameplay there. It's really just sort of like a candid camera kind of thing.
Sure.
Where they would like go out into the park and like one thing was like they were doing a fake commercial for lipstick, so they would get a little girl to put on lipstick and then tell her she had to kiss some other boy on the cheek or something like that, which was super awkward. But yeah, those were not really, like I said, game show oriented. They were just like funny things that they did. Anyways, yeah, so they filmed those both in Hollywood and in Universal Studios, Florida. After the first season, Robin ended up leaving, which apparently was over low pay, which I can totally get because A, I'm sure she was making a fair amount of money from Double Dare, but B, this show cost nothing, probably. Like, all of the money goes to Pi and the Pi coaster and those contraptions. They're not giving away anything. There's no budget to this show at all, right? Like,
sure.
I have to imagine that because of that, they're doing not much pay for the host. Now, Mark Summers probably is getting a little bit more. I don't know. I don't want to speak to her career choices, but I can definitely understand that maybe that show was not paying enough to be worth the mess it was putting people through.
Right.
So after she leaves, they start this sort of gimmick of choosing a co-host of the day, picking a kid out of the audience to be the co-host, which makes sense in the idea of audience participation. Like, that's what this show really is, right? And I kind of want to give it props for that because it almost feels like more of a like attraction at a theme park than it does a real show, right? Like, if you watch it from that point of view, it's just like, I don't know, it doesn't feel very showy. It feels like a thing to do at an amusement park. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yes. And again, this is shaping up my rating here as we go. So I'll let you continue and then we'll go from there.
There's not a whole lot more to talk about, honestly. They apparently would run into an issue pretty regularly where the co-host of the day was a kid who was too shy to actually be a co-host. Go figure, 14-year-olds don't make good television show hosts. So
there you go.
They brought in a chimpanzee who would help them out and provide...
Wait, what?
Yeah, there was
what?
Yep. the co-host.
Okay, so if this isn't jumping the shark, I don't know what is.
No, you're absolutely right. But again, how can you say that it's jumping the shark with a show that it like the entire premise is jump a shark, right? Like
no, the entire premise is pie in the face, but okay.
Right, but they have to keep jumping the shark with the pie in the face, right? Like you gotta make it the next thing.
One
That's
up
why
the
they have
last pie in the face,
and
yeah.
the pie coaster and the pie wash, and it's the theme of this
The
show.
pie motorcycle.
Right? Yeah.
I'm totally with you. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So, anyways, the chimpanzee would come out, and they had a voiceover for it too that would make like monkey-related puns, and I mean, it was, embarrassing, honestly.
You think?
Yeah. So after 2 seasons and a grand total of 90 episodes, it finally came to an end on November 26th, 1993. 2 years total, basically. And, not a long run. So why do I remember it well? Reruns continued on Nickelodeon until 1999, and then it continued to run on Nickelodeon Games and Sports for a couple years after that. So all told, the reruns were on air for almost 10 years after the show was canceled.
Dude, that is getting the most for your money considering there was no budget for this thing.
Right, and I think that probably has something to do with it, where they filmed this show for next to nothing, and then they just had the tapes of it, and whenever they had dead air, just throw What Would You Do on, because it costs nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. Holy cow. Unbelievable.
Yeah. And as far as potential for coming back, I wouldn't hold your breath.
Yeah, I don't think Pie in the Face does it anymore.
No.
I'm not sure Pie in the Face did it then.
I don't want to say that it didn't, because I enjoyed this show a lot as a kid. And I thought getting hit with a pie was funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, I was not the kid that ever wanted to be on. I mean, I wanted to be on Double Dare for all of the prizes. That was the only reason I wanted to be on Double Dare. The getting messy part did not, was not a thrill for me at all.
Sure.
I was not one of those kids that was like, I want to get dirty and my mommy and daddy won't let me kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
I think Nick was totally going for, all right, let's do more messy stuff with kids because Double Dare worked, and that's what they went for with this. Do you know what I'm saying?
For sure. And I think, you could probably argue that all told, this show ended up being messier than Double Dare. I guess once you get to super sloppy Double Dare, and we had talked about how Double Dare would actually it would be fetid in there with all the gross stuff. So maybe not.
Yeah.
I might be overstepping my bounds, but you're right that the idea of this show is let's take the super sloppy and lose the Double Dare.
Yeah. And the truth be told on this is that I give Nick a lot of credit for this. And I guess we should probably talk about ratings at this point. So I guess I'll go first.
Yeah, go for it. We're rating out of pies. I assume.
Pies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For
Either
sure.
pies or chimpanzees.
Yeah, no, definitely pies. There's enough pies here that we're rating pies for the rest of our lives. Pies.
Fair.
Matter of fact, there's so many pies in this episode, we may rate pies next episode as well.
Just got a bunch of pies left over.
Dude, it's just so ridiculous, the pies. Anyway, I do really appreciate what Nickelodeon was doing at this point in time. They had a huge success coming off of Double Dare, and they were like, quick, get programming together that's more of the same and push it the hell out there because we've got a captive audience right now. And I feel like that's what they did for most of the 90s. They just tried to expand as quickly and as broadly as they could to get as many kid shows out there as possible. And I think they did a great job of it. I'm not saying everyone was a knockout of the park. And hell, Nickelodeon Studios is closed down. It's not even at Universal anymore, So it definitely ran its course, but I think what they did in the late 80s and early 90s was amazingly, it was amazing. It just was absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it was industry altering for sure. It's interesting because I have the sort of rose-colored glasses of looking back on this as the target market for when it was happening. So of course I loved it all.
Right.
But when I went back and watched this, I was expecting a Double Dare type situation where I would watch it and the theme song would come on and I would fall in love and just have a great time watching it. The theme song came on and I fell in love, and then the show started and I was like, oh God, I don't want to watch this anymore. I watched 2 episodes of it and I was just done. It was so awkward, and it doesn't hold up. I think you're right that Pie in the Face is it's got limited mileage at best. And this show is a product of its time. We talked about before with like Carrot Top, and I think, maybe some other topics that I've brought up, Vanilla Ice.
Sure.
This one I don't think really holds up. I don't think you could make it again. I don't think you could have made it before this. I think it fit for what it needed to be, but it's just not much.
Yeah, and I think there was also that period of time. Now, remember, I'm 5 years older than you, just about. I guess maybe a couple more than that. But so I was beyond the Pie in the Face at this point. So I think I've seen it. When I watched a couple episodes of it this week, I was like, oh, I've seen this before. I remember this. And it's probably because it was on for so many years in syndication or in reruns that I was like, oh, yeah, okay, so I've probably seen this, But it didn't, I wasn't watching it back then like I watched Double Dare back then. You know what I'm saying? And it may have just been because I graduated out at that point and where you were still of that age, and therefore that's why you did. But I mean, I can totally see how kids of that age would, and at that time, would totally and completely love the show. And so if we take Five Pies and we take away a little bit for, lack of gameplay, and we take a little bit away for they were doing this just because they were trying to push out more content because of the fact that Double Dare hit as big as it did. And we take away a little bit for there being way too many pies, and you could do other things besides pies. Like, why did you concentrate so much on pies? and we take away another couple of points because they really had no frickin' budget here. And then you let one of the most appealing parts of this, which is the idea that Mark and Robin have come from Double Dare, and you just let her go because you won't give her any more money. She's almost become a household name at this point. Dude, this is coming in for me at about 2.75 pies. And that's, I think, high.
I think that's high as well. That's higher than I would have gone for sure. There's an interesting point you brought up. I say an interesting point you brought up. The point that we've been talking about just brought up a thought in my mind. There's a term in the video game industry called shovelware that I think is very appropriate here. The idea of just shoveling stuff out to see what people will go for, right? I think that's kind of what this show is. They're just shoveling ideas out to see what sticks, or they had an idea that worked. They were like, let's just boil it down to the simplest way we can make it.
And here's the thing: if you have no budget, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work. Hell,
exactly.
Tape 10 episodes, give Mark Summers $1,000 an episode, and let's roll it and see if it works. And if it does, great. If it doesn't, let it go. And they ran it for 2 years. Good on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, and then again, reruns for another 10. So
yeah, cost them. I mean, at the end of the day, probably per airing cost them nothing
pennies
for this show.
Yeah, absolutely. You said 2.75. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think that's really high for me. Too. I mean, I gotta be honest.
I'm gonna cut off another half pie there, and I'm gonna go 2.25 pies.
All right. Yeah.
I mean, Mark Summers is great, and
you love the Pie Bot or whatever it's called.
The Pie Pod. Yeah, it's
Pie Pod. Thank you.
And the only reason why I'm not going lower is because the awkward cringe factor that I had watching it, I did not have that as a kid. I don't remember watching it and specifically being like, oh, that is hilarious and I like these, hidden camera segments, but I don't remember being creeped out by them like I was this time. So that's definitely a feeling that I have as an adult, so I don't want to take away from the show for that.
Sure, and that's also a generational difference too between what was accepted back then and what is accepted now too. So
very true.
Product of its time, and you can't knock it for that.
Right, absolutely. So again, I'm landing on 2.25, but it's interesting to note that had I not rewatched the show, I would have gone much higher, and had I not watched it as a kid, I would have gone much lower. There is a very large disparity between my enjoyment of the show as a kid and my dislike for it now.
Well, I think that's probably well said, and I think that holds true for a lot of shows. But again, I love doing another Nickelodeon show because it really does hark back to our childhood. So it's nice to at least talk about it, whether we loved it or hated it. It's fun to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I lived Nickelodeon for a very large portion of my life, so I'm always happy to talk about Nickelodeon shows.
Mike, I would say there's certain aspects of your life that still are Nickelodeon. I mean, you have a ball pit in your living room.
You know what? Point taken.
So
you are absolutely correct.
There it is. By the way, which I admire every parts of those lives. So I mean, that's fine. I wish I had a ball pit. All right, that's all the time we've got for today.
All right, thank you, Tom. Special thank you to Christian, all the folks at Buzzer Blog, everyone who listens in and writes us and loves us and cares for us. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think they really care that much, but okay. I mean, that's great. If they do, I love them for it.
I'm sure someone cares.
Tune in again next week. We'll bring you the latest and greatest in the world of game shows, as well as a brand new featured show, too.
And remember, you can catch us online, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, tellthemwhatthey'vewon.com.
Please subscribe, share, like, and drop a review if you like what you heard.
And if you didn't like it, I guess you're going to get hit with a pie.
Or if you did like it, you're probably going to get hit with a pie.
Yeah, there's a pie coming your way is basically what I'm saying.
Either way, you're getting pie.
Yep. No escaping the pie.
Right. See you next week, Mike.
Bye, Tom.
You've been listening to America's favorite game show podcast, Tell Them What They've Won. A JTech audio production. Copyright 2021. No part of this podcast may be reproduced by anyone without the express written consent of the creators. For more information or to contact us, please go to tellthemwhatthey'vewon.com. What did you learn this week, Mike?
I'm glad I don't look back on everything from my childhood with rose-colored glasses. I was afraid that, especially after the Double Dare thing, that I'm just going to be the nostalgia geek and everything from the 90s I'm going to love forever. But
Sure.
Their show told me that's not the case, and I'm glad to know that I can be objective about these sorts of things.
I'm glad you can as well.
Thanks, man. What'd you learn?
So Nickelodeon really did a lot with kids and being messy, and that was like a big thing. And you and I had talked about this on the Double Dare episode about how as kids love to get messy. Like, that's really cool. Like, they love to get into the dirt and the mud, and I wasn't like that as a child. I'm not going to say that I was like a prima donna or anything and I didn't like to get wet or whatnot. I mean, I love to run through the sprinkler, et cetera, but I didn't like to get dirty and grimy. I mean, if it happened, fine, but I wasn't looking forward to chances to play in the mud. And I guess I didn't realize that I was so odd, and that really a lot of kids really enjoyed that until we started talking about a lot of these episodes, and I'm like, this was a big thing? I had no idea this was a big thing. I guess I kind of liked all those episodes for watching other kids get dirty because I didn't have to do it.
Well, and I think that was maybe Mark Summers' approach as well, being such a OCD person.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a good point. Copyright 2021, a JTech audio production.